Welcome back to the What the Flick re-review of Game of Thrones Season 4, Episode 10, The Children. Upon further review, where we let a couple of days pass, we let the episode sink in. In both cases, we watch the episode a second time, and then we talk about it without the immediate emotional reaction of just having seen the episode. And so we've been doing this for the past few weeks. You should check back on those if you haven't seen them. But Steve, as always, has a lot of notes on things that he's been thinking about after watching the finale of Season 4. So where do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the episode is titled The Children. And, you know, it's really about the children. It starts, well, there's actually a group of characters called The Children up in the far north. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But, you know, I realized that the entire show, all 4 seasons, is really about the children and their relationship with their parents.
Yeah, both the good and the bad.
Yeah, and you know, we all know, especially people who have kids, we think that we would do everything we can for the children. And we think we would love them and protect them. And you know, from the child's perspective, they want that independence from their parent at some point, but they still want the love, the acceptance. And there's a lot of interesting interplay between the child and the parent. So, you know, I want to start with Catelyn Stark. And she had that really moving conversation with Talisa in season 2. Was it in season 1? Season 1.
I think it was at least 2, because he wouldn't have met Talisa until after Ned Stark's death.
You're right. It was season 2.
Yeah.
And she tells a great story about how, you know, she's knitting a little object for the gods, and Talisa says, you know, why do you do that? And she says, you know, it's worked before, and she tells a whole story about how when Ned brought Jon Snow back from the war, she was just disgusted looking at this child, and she prayed to the gods to kill him, basically. Yeah. And then when he got the pox, she felt horrible, and she prayed to the gods to spare him. And
so indecisive.
Yeah, and then she promised. Yeah, she promised that if the gods would spare him, that she would love him the way a mother would love a child. Yeah. And she broke that promise because she didn't love him. I mean, and she blames herself.
If she cared enough to pray for him to be healed, she does feel something for him. I think that her feelings were just completely mixed and towards negative. I think she was being a little bit too hard on herself. I mean, she cared enough to not want him to die of the pox.
I agree. I think she's being way too hard on herself, and she's blaming herself for all the bad that's happened to their family. Yeah. But I think that's really interesting interplay because, you know, he's not her biological son, and I think she feels guilty that she didn't love him, but she also feels a bit resentful that he was there and she couldn't love him. Yeah. And
a physical reminder of the infidelity of her husband, who she otherwise had reason to trust.
And you know, even in her very end, at the Red Wedding, she does everything she can to save Robb. You know, she begs Walder Frey, we will not retaliate, we will let everything lie.
Crazy.
You know, just please let Robb walk out of here. Yeah. And I mean, it was a desperate plea from a desperate mom. And it was really sad, but she witnessed his death. And
before she finally
Before she died, yeah.
And of course, we have to point out that the initial blow that was struck in that was to kill Robb's child, stabbing Talisa's belly. Yeah. Yeah, so that's pretty hard.
And then, you know, let's go to Ned Stark. So Ned Stark, he was beheaded in front of his 2 daughters. And I mean, I think Arya didn't technically see it because was it Yoren? Yoren grabs him and grabs her and shields her from the view, but she knows what happened. And Sansa not only saw it happen, but she was forced to stare at the head. Yeah. And further, she was forced to basically betray her father by calling him a traitor. I mean, that's got to be so hard, right? And
can I throw in sort of a wild card from this last episode? So the episode's named The Children, and in basically every scene you see a child sort of struggling in some way, or you see the children up far north. And the scene that sort of stands out as not fitting into that so much is that you get the update from the last scene on what happens when Jon Snow goes to Mance Rayder's camp. But the thing that I was thinking about, when you hear Mance Rayder, the way he talks about the wildling horde that he's the leader of, He says he's called the king in the north, but they don't kneel to him. They don't see him as a king, really. And he talks about how he just wants them to not bleed anymore. He wants to protect them, put them behind the wall. It's very much a paternal sort of role that he has for them. Like, he sees them as his children that he has to protect. He's not trying to get them glory or land or anything like that. He just wants to save them from danger, much like the other parental figures we've been talking about.
Right, and just briefly, from prior episodes and prior seasons, there's a whole Ramsay and Roose Bolton.
Yeah.
Ramsay's a crazy person who does crazy things, but he wants acceptance from his dad. And I guess in that way, he's like anyone else.
Yeah. He changes in that moment when he gets recognized finally.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe that makes him more civil going forward.
I think it's too late.
You're
cut
right.
off a man's penis.
Yeah, but the great thing about Game of Thrones is that characters become redeemed. I never thought Jaime would be redeemed from the first season. He's a horrible guy, but now you love the guy.
Yeah.
And the Hound.
He speared Ned Stark through the back of the leg, like.
Well, he didn't
technically,
yeah.
but he caused it to happen in the event.
Yeah, and the Hound. I love the Hound.
Taking up a very parental sort of role, saying he's going to watch out for her. And the mom of Brienne is trying to track her down too.
Yeah.
By the way, we skipped over a little bit, but Theon, you see Ramsay sort of conflicted, and once he gets recognized by his father, it sort of changes him. But Theon, his downfall was because he didn't know which father figure he was supposed to sort of look up to. And he made, as he said in his famous and tearful speech, he chose the wrong one. Like, he had a father, and he went to King's Landing and died. So again, you see sort of the relationship between father and son sort of ruining a person in that case.
Yeah, so you know what? I want to go straight to Arya. And that scene where the Hound is dying, and she just stares at him, but she's actually not staring at him. I feel like she's just staring through him.
Yeah, I think so too.
She's completely disconnected. And this is where I, vastly differ from the review that you guys did on Sunday night. I don't think she feels this, I hate the Hound, I want him to suffer. I think she's going through another very, very awful trauma.
You think she's trying to distance herself?
Yeah, look, think about it. This is a girl who at a very early age saw her father executed, okay?
Yeah.
And then the very next father figure that she had was Yoren, who took care of her. And then she saw him die.
Yeah.
And then, she's been traveling with the Hound, and, despite his flaws, he has been the most important figure in her most important immediate figure in her life for the past, I don't know how long it is. What is it, a year?
A year
maybe
or
2
two,
years?
yeah.
And then, he dies. And, I know children sometimes when they lose a parent, they're mad at the parent. Like, why did you fucking die and leave me?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a little bit of what she was going through at that moment. She was looking at the Hound, looking through the Hound, and she's like, again, I'm losing someone that I care about. Again, there's an attachment that I make, and that attachment is severed prematurely. And she just decides, that's it, I'm done. I'm done, I'm out.
Yeah.
And she takes the money, and she gets out of there, and then she goes on the ship. But I want to ask you, on the ship, it was not clear to me what happens at the end, because she wants him to sail north to the wall. He says, no, I'm going to Bravos.
Yeah.
And then he says, you shall have a cabin, but he never specifies where they're going. Are we supposed to know or not know?
I guess they sort of leave it ambiguous at this point, so I probably won't say anything.
Okay.
But you have 40 weeks until the next season starts, so you should probably read the books anyway.
Yeah.
But I just want to say a little bit more about the Arya thing. So obviously the 3 people on the other review we didn't agree with me. They were saying, no, she's just bloodthirsty. She just wants him to suffer. That's why she won't kill him. I feel like obviously she's a bloodthirsty person. I'm not doubting that. I'm saying that no one in Game of Thrones is just one thing. She's obviously conflicted.
Yeah.
She's not staring at him and smiling. She's not happy that he's suffering.
She's clearly not happy.
Yeah.
She's not saying, you're finally getting what you deserve. There was none of that. She looked completely detached, and she was just like spacing out.
She had the 1,000-yard stare or whatever. And the thing too is, like, if their point in the other review was that she's just cold-blooded, she's just a killer, she doesn't care about anything else, well then she wouldn't not kill him so that he'd suffer more. Like, what did she do with Rorge?
Yeah.
She didn't like slash him a bit and then let him bleed out. She killed him as quickly as she could because it was all about crossing the name off her list. It wasn't about suffering.
Right.
And so I think, look, and for those of you who've read the book, it's not necessarily the same as what happened in the book, But the show has diverged, and she as an actress is different than Arya in the books. And so I have to go based on what I saw in her face, and what I saw in her face was not that she just wanted him to suffer more.
Yeah, and the sequence of events that led to the Hound dying, it was almost like a custody battle between a mom and a dad, right?
A brutal one.
A very, very bad one. And I think she clearly saw that he was fighting for her, because
and not just for the money. There was no money anymore.
Yeah, the money was gone. Yeah, and he says to Brienne, "There is no safety. Where are you going to take her? And if you don't know that, then you're not the right person to take care of her."
Yeah.
And Brienne says, "And you're the one? Is that what you're doing? You're taking care of her?" He's like, "Yes, I am." And I think he meant it, and I think Arya believed it.
Yeah.
And
it's too bad that they couldn't have worked together to protect her. That would have been better. I don't know where they would have gone, but it was. I mean, Brienne doesn't get Arya anyway, and the Hound dies, so she certainly didn't end up, at least in the immediate sense, better off.
In some parallel universe, they do hit it off.
They
the
get
Hound
married.
and Brienne get married.
And she gets a brother.
Yeah, and she gets a brother, Podrick, and there's a lot of hijinks, and everything's fine.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, they move into a really nice apartment in Manhattan, and then they just have fun all the time.
Yeah.
But not in this case.
But not in this case. It's so sad the way the Hound just dies. I guess he dies slowly, but this Game of Thrones, you never know. Maybe he doesn't die.
He was pretty messed up. He got hit in the head with a rock like 30 or 40 times.
And he fell off a cliff.
He fell off a cliff, obviously broke his leg.
Thigh was broken. He's going to bleed out. It was awful.
Yeah. And by the way, we just have to point out, so Maisie Williams, who plays Arya, tweeted this out. She's totally right. She said Rory McCann, who plays the Hound, for an Emmy. And he's not one that you think of when you think of great actors necessarily, but when he's pleading for her to kill him, he does eventually beg, and you hear in his voice something you haven't heard the entire time he's been on the show, that he just wants her to end it. And he may not be in an absolute sense the best actor in the world, but in that scene he really sold exactly what was going on for the Hound.
Yeah, and again, to me, the reason why Arya didn't end it for him is not so much because she wanted him to suffer. I think it's because she just wanted to be detached. She's like, I'm done. I'm checking out of this situation, and I don't want any more of these father figures dying right in front of my face. And that's why she walks away before he actually does die. But at the same time, she is no fool. Why not take the money?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And also, if it is for her about crossing names off of her list, the Hound really is already dead at this point. He's not the Hound anymore. He is Sandor Clegane, her protector, who's a very different person than the guy who killed Mika, the butcher's boy.
Yeah, and the whole time he was trying to goad her by saying, I killed the butcher, I should have raped your wife, your sister. The whole time he was saying that, Arya wasn't the least bit impressed. She wasn't upset, nothing. She just had that stare.
Yeah, good acting on her part, by the way.
Outstanding by both of them. That's the thing. I mean,
it's too bad that they're not going to be together anymore.
Yeah, I'm really bummed out about that. I really like the Hound. I love their interaction, and it could have come off as being corny and all, but it wasn't. It was so well done. I think it was a great writing. It was a great acting by both of them. So I'm gonna really miss it.
Yeah, and I like too that for the past 2 or 3 episodes, everybody's been like, he keeps checking his neck wound. He's obviously gonna die from his neck wound.
Yeah.
Not so much necessarily.
Yeah.
He's got bigger problems to deal with.
Okay, so let's move on from Arya, and I want to talk about Tywin versus his children, Cersei and Jaime, and Tyrion. But first, let's talk about Cersei and Jaime. The scene where Cersei...
Children all throughout this.
Yeah, the scene where Cersei basically tells him, I'm going to tell everyone. You know, and he's like, tell him what? And again, this is where I differ from the review that you guys did. I don't think Tywin really knew. Or he purposely made himself ignorant of it. He didn't want to believe it. And I know this from... sadly, personal experience where there was some trauma in my extended family, and it involved molestation. And then the mom, she must have known that.
But she blocked it out.
But she blocked it out. And when her daughter finally told her, she said, "No, that's not true. That can't be true." And she refused to believe it. And it took basically repeated attempts to get her to come around to believing it.
Yeah.
And I think Tywin genuinely didn't believe it or thought these are just scandalous rumors, tossed around by others who want to, delegitimize their claim to the throne or whatever it may be. So he didn't believe it.
Yeah.
I don't think he knew in his heart necessarily that was the case and pretending he didn't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, the brain is a malleable thing. You can convince yourself of a lot, and he also has a gigantic political and economic interest in not believing it.
Right.
Not that if he did, they would all abdicate their positions of authority, but I mean, he thinks that his power is based, at least in some part, on the claim they have, and so it's difficult to make someone believe something if their economic interests are in them not believing it, and vice versa. And so this worked out for him.
Yeah. I thought that scene with Cersei and Jaime was of critical importance. When Cersei goes to Jaime and basically says, I told father. I'm sticking it to him, and I love it, and I feel empowered.
And now you can stick it to me.
I'm gonna choose you, and you can stick it to me. I don't fucking care. We're gonna do it right here, right now. I think it was a huge moment, and it was huge because by her defying her father, I think it gave Jaime the will to also defy his father. Because in a prior episode, he says to Tyrion, what do you want me to do? Come down here and murder the guards and set you free? Yeah. And
maybe.
That's exactly what he winds up doing.
So Cersei might have unknowingly actually aided.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think Cersei unwittingly and she unwittingly helped him. So
although again, that leads to, so if she gets Jaime to do that, then that also gets Tyrion to kill Tywin. So she creates a problem, but she also solves another one of her problems.
Right.
Which is protecting Tommen in her
Which
view.
actually solves a bigger problem that she had.
Yeah,
so it was not,
protecting her son.
Again, what was interesting to me was Jaime was looking at that book where they write down all the deeds that they've done.
Yeah.
So
the White Book.
Yeah, so he looks at his name, Sir Jaime Lannister. And when Cersei comes in and does all that, he literally throws the book off. And
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
that's a nice
he
symbol
pushes
there.
it off. It's symbolic of him pushing away his duties. Like I'm not going to be bound by the book. I'm not going to be bound by the rules. I'm not going to be bound by my father anymore. I'm pushing that thing off. I'm going to fuck my sister. I'm going to free my brother. Okay, that's what he's thinking. So I thought that was a really powerful scene. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, by the way, like when she gets down in front of him and then goes to kiss his hand, I'm glad they went in that family-friendly route because I was worried for a little bit. I'm sitting next to, Matt and Jank. I don't need to see that. in front
Why? He thought they were going to reenact it?
I don't know. You never know with this show. They show some pretty gruesome stuff. You saw what they did to the dude's eyes.
Oh, no. That's fine. But why are you afraid to see it in front of Jank
I don't want
and Matt?
to watch that stuff with them.
It's like watching with parents?
I'm not with my parents either. But anyway, yeah, so I'm glad you pointed out that might have been what sort of led him to do it. Although I guess once it's very real that Tyrion is going to die, I would hope he would do something.
Yeah.
But the actual killing of the guards is a pretty big move. There's going to be some repercussions for that. I mean, maybe with all the other stuff around Tyrion, nobody knows that it was him necessarily.
But think about it this way: it's much harder to be the first one to break the rules and fight the establishment.
Yeah.
Right. But imagine if you're in a class and the teacher is being a total dick.
Yeah.
And someone stands up and says this is bullshit and throws a rumpled piece of paper at the teacher. It's much easier to be the next guy.
Yeah.
Right. So once you set in motion that we're no longer following the rules. And that's what Cersei did, very effectively, very passionately. I think that helped Jaime also do that.
I think that's probably the case.
So Tyrion, oh my God, that scene.
Relieved?
That scene was so intense.
Which one?
When he saw Shay, I couldn't believe it.
That's sad.
It actually kind of broke my heart when they, because I was like, oh my God, who is that? It was this very sexy body. Unlike you guys, I never thought for a second it was Cersei. That'd be.
I did not think it was.
They're crazy, right? So I was like, who could this be? Is it gonna be some random woman who is not part of the storyline? That seems weird because there was too much focus.
Marjorie.
Yeah, there's way too much focus on it. So when she turns and it's Shay, I was like, oh my God, right?
And she says, "My lion."
Yeah, and right before that she goes Tywin.
Yeah.
She hears the footsteps. She goes Tywin, and then she turns and goes, "My lion."
Yeah.
I felt like someone punched me in the guts.
Oh, wow.
It was awful. And I felt so bad for Tyrion. And I don't think Tyrion had any intention of killing her.
She reached for the knife.
She reached for the knife, and then they fought for the knife, and then she slapped him multiple times, and then he grabbed her, then he fell off the bed, and then I'm not justifying violence towards women at all. I'm not justifying his actions. All I'm saying is that he was caught up in the emotions of the moment, and he started strangling her almost accidentally, but then he realized exactly what he was doing, and he kept doing it. Yeah. And you could see the pain in his face. And then I also thought the whole filming and cinematography was beautiful.
The way they panned over.
Yeah, and the way he sat there, like, he killed her, but it's almost like he killed himself. He killed the part of himself that matters. He
still loves her.
Right? I mean, so he killed the part of himself that matters the most, and he's sitting upright, and she's lying on the bed with her head hanging down, and they're kind of like totally at odds. Like they're going in different directions.
She looked good there.
Hottest dead woman ever.
So there were some differences between how that played out in the books and the show, and as usual, I won't go too in depth into it. I don't know, in terms of her immediately reaching for the knife, I didn't really like that. I think they should have said something, especially because she does not have any reputation in the show of being a violent person. She's someone who uses her sexuality and her charm to sort of get what she wants, and she's clearly doing that with Tywin. Like, after she loses Tyrion, she has nothing. Like, what is she gonna do? If Tywin wants to sleep with her, she has to sleep with him. I feel like she should have said something. For her to immediately go for the knife to kill him, it felt out of place for me. It didn't feel like what she would have actually done.
That's a good point, and I didn't think about that, but I agree. That's odd. Why would she want to grab the knife and try to kill him?
He didn't have a weapon in his hands. He didn't look like he was going to kill her.
Yeah, there was no indication from him that he was going to kill her. He just had this look of shock on his face to find her there. And maybe I'm reading into it, but it seemed to me that it was a look of shock, but still some delight to see her. Right?
Kind of like Jon Snow.
Kind of like Jon Snow, exactly. Yeah, like, Ygritte, you're gonna kill me, but I'm still happy to see you, right? Because that's the great thing about the show. They always capture the nuances and the subtleties, the complexities of real life. Everything is a conflict in life. I mean, it's very rarely a very easy choice all around. Yeah. So that scene, I think I agree with Ben that he would not have killed Tywin if he hadn't already killed Shay.
I don't know where else that could have gone. Like, he went to the room expecting to see Tywin. What else could have happened? Like, the chances of them having like a talk and then he runs away, I don't think that would happen.
You're right.
I think that one of them was going to die in that room.
You're right. But I don't know that he went in articulating in his head and plotting, I am going to kill my father. Yeah, I think he went there to he was looking for a confrontation of some sort, maybe some sort of closure. Because he even asks him, you've always wanted me dead. I am your son.
And to Tywin's credit, he says, yes, I did. When the crossbow is pointed at you, that takes some balls.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, so he's got balls.
Yeah.
They're all over the floor of the privy now, but he does have balls. And so I guess for a lot of people, I think that after the Shay scene, the Tywin scene loses a bit of its sting. Like, you already saw a big character that's been around since season 1 die.
I disagree with you guys because they were saying how that death was unsatisfactory.
I didn't say that.
Right, but I think Cenk and
I disagree with them a lot this week.
So Cenk, I think, said that partly because he likes Tywin and respects him and all that. So fine, I get that, but I thought that was actually perfect. I really liked it. Again, the acting is masterful. Both guys, it was just so good. And Tyrion, again, he went through this very traumatic experience with Shay just moments before, and he's in this state. He's in this state of where he just is full of grief. Like Arya. Yeah, he's full of grief, and he's in so much pain that he just lost the one thing that mattered the most to him, and now he's confronting
because of his father.
Because of his father.
Yeah.
And think about that. Okay, I want to make a quick contrast. Both Mance Rayder and Tormund asked Jon Snow, "Did you love her?" They cared about Ygritte. And Tywin is total opposite. Not only does he fuck Shay the night before Tyrion's scheduled execution, but he's like, she's a whore.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
the night before he gets executed, like, dude, just wait. The door will be open tomorrow.
It is unbelievable.
That is pretty crazy. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, so you can see how different they are. And Tywin is supposed to be like the most powerful man of Westeros, the richest man, the most civilized man, and he's not. He's an awful, awful person.
Yeah.
And the so-called wildlings are much more
about love.
honorable and caring towards one another, at least in this respect.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a very interesting contrast and dichotomy there.
Oh, can I throw in one thing,
Sure.
just because we got some comments on the past video. So I'm going to say that the quote that they didn't put into the books, just because it's not a spoiler in any way. I don't even know why we didn't just say it. But if for some reason you're worried it's going to spoil something, I'll give you a count of 3 to leave. It's not a spoiler in any way, but just you have to understand that there had been sort of this joke about Tywin Lannister throughout the first 3 books or whatever. It was something like he's such a Lannister that he shits gold.
Oh, that's right.
And so he, like, I don't know if it was a quote or if he thought it, but after he shoots him, he says, and in the end, Tywin Lannister did not shit gold. I don't know.
Tyrion says that?
He thinks it, I think.
He thinks it, okay.
And it's supposed to demonstrate that, like, Tywin Lannister, who's a different character in the books, by the way. He's not as strong physically and that sort of stuff. He's like kind of failed in some respects in his life. But anyway, that like after you get shot, you're not that person anymore. You lose control of your bowels and you're dead in a bathroom. That's all you are. And so I kind of wish that they'd left that in, but although I understand that it would have taken away some of the emotional impact, perhaps.
Right. I do recall someone saying that. Some character
really?
said that in
Maybe
one of the
Lannister
seasons.
guards said it or something.
Someone said the Lannisters shit gold or something along those lines. Yeah.
He didn't like that joke during his life.
Yeah. So I was really upset because I somehow randomly stumbled upon a spoiler where some jackass wrote like weeks and weeks ago that Tyrion kills Tywin with a crossbow.
Yes.
So when Tyrion picked up the crossbow, I was like, oh fuck. Because I was hoping that the spoiler wasn't true, but then when that happened, I was thinking,
I mean, it could still technically not be true.
Right, but I was thinking, it's gonna be true. So that was super annoying. But yeah, so again, that was another great scene.
Yeah. Oh, and then that undercuts. I was gonna ask you, do you think that Tywin was going to die once, because they had that showdown, and it's not immediately clear. Like, for all you know, a guard is going to come around the corner and kill Tyrion. Like, on Game of Thrones, you never know. So it sucks that was taken from you.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I never thought Tyrion was going to die. I really thought he was, but I didn't think Tywin was going to die either. I thought somehow Tyrion gets away or whatever, but I never thought that Tywin was going to die. Even after I read the spoiler, I was hoping the spoiler was bullshit.
Exactly,
yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next?
All right, so let's talk about Khaleesi and the dragons. So those are her children, and
they kill children,
and she's a breaker of chains, and her children kill other children, so she has to put the chains on them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so these are bad kids who need some discipline. They're running amok and causing a lot of trouble. So I thought that scene was well shot. It was very cool, but that storyline seemed almost rushed. They stuck it in this episode really fast, just to kind of.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, I wish they had developed that a bit more.
I mean, they sort of did. They foreshadowed it several episodes ago with the goat dying, and the guy bringing in the goat. And the way in the books, in fact,
and Jorah himself tells her,
they can't be tamed.
They can't be tamed. They're dragons.
Yeah, and that was like episode 2. So they have been foreshadowing it.
Yeah.
In the books, I think it's actually the same shepherd. So you see him come in, and she says something like, "Yes, we'll pay you for another goat," and he's like, "It's not a goat." So I was glad to see that they were foreshadowing that. Obviously, it's not the dragons she chains are not the dragon that actually did it, and it feels to me like you are camped in this town. Like, you have time to be a mother to these dragons, to train them, to try to understand them. To just chain them, that seems like taking the easy way out. It's like just sticking your kid in timeout or something. Like, you should be a mother to it. What do you think is going to be the end result of this? That in a year they'll be more docile?
Yeah, she has to kill the dragons or train them. She can't
kill them. That's her ticket to the throne.
Yeah, she can't just put them in a dungeon that's pitch black with chains.
Oh, God, that would suck.
And just leave them.
I pity the guy who has to try to feed them.
So let me ask you something.
By the way.
this is
Here's
a
some
little
meat.
ridiculous, but are dragons, are they smart like humans where they can think and all that kind of stuff and remember, well, that person fucked me over, that person's good? Or are they more like, I don't know, like a horse that you would train to do things and they don't necessarily think about things?
I will only
conscious
say
thought?
based off of what we've seen, I think that they are supposed to have the level of intelligence of like dogs or something like that. Like, and dogs can remember somebody who beat them years before.
Right.
So they have some sort of cunning and intelligence. I mean, they're predatory animals, so they're going to have some intelligence. They're not just grazers or something like that.
Right.
But we haven't seen any reason to believe that they're human level intelligence, that they can talk or understand speech or anything like that.
Okay.
They're more animalistic.
Okay, because in Lord of the Rings, it's very different.
Yeah, they're smarter than humans.
Yeah, they can plot things and,
Even though they still like being flattered. So they're human in that respect.
Right. All right, so I have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
So The Mountain, okay? Why did they put that scene in there? Was it just to show the audience that the Mountain was still alive? And what was that other guy, not the Grand Maester, but the other one, the Lesser Maester, the one who's doing some kind of weird experiment to create a Franken Mountain?
Franken Mountain.
What does he mean by he will be changed?
Well, we know that it won't weaken him, and the way he says, he's like, "Oh no, that's ominous."
It's really ominous. It's like, holy shit, he's gonna come back. Like
He's already the biggest thing.
yeah, he's already extremely dangerous and powerful.
Yeah.
And he's gonna come back a little changed. What does that mean? Like,
Well, so I don't know if it was clear. They had like a 10-minute long previously on Game of Thrones, but they didn't show anything about him. So that's Kyburn. He was the guy who helped Jaime with his stump, basically. And they've said a couple of times that he used to be in training to be a Maester, but as Pycelle says in that scene, he was too curious and he looked into the dark arts and sorcery and things like that. Which, I don't know if they put it in the show, but the Maester in Winterfell says he looked into all of that when he was curious when he was becoming a Maester, and there was never anything to it. Like, he couldn't prove that magic existed in any way. But we do know that across the world, magic is coming up in all these different forms. And so Kyburn, who has been curious and seems to understand some things, is now replacing. It's mostly a symbolic thing. Like, you had Pycelle, who had some authority, and now he's being literally like kicked out of his laboratory, and Cersei is putting her sort of faith in this very shady guy. And so whatever ends up happening
why
in the
does
mountain,
Cersei care?
I think partly she doesn't care that much.
I mean,
like,
why does she
if the
care?
mountain died, I don't think she'd really care that much.
But she seemed to care.
She doesn't like or trust Pycelle anymore. I don't think she cares about Pycelle. And I think that if nothing else, she has lost many of her allies. And the Mountain has shown that he's willing to fight for her to be her champion, even though there was nothing to gain for the Mountain in that. He just gets to kill someone. And he was already loyal to her. And so if she can retain that as an ally, I think she'd be willing to do it.
All right.
And also, I think she has some sort of dark curiosity, too.
Okay.
And she's not a very rational person.
All right. So.
I don't know what they were pumping out of him. If it was just blood, it didn't look like blood to me.
Okay. Couple of quick questions for you. All right, where are we? Oh, yes, Jon Snow. So there was a moment when the Red Woman and Jon Snow, they were looking at each other through the smoke of the flames. And I couldn't tell what that look was. She gives like this little...
Was it just lust?
you know, all right, I'm gonna throw out a wild theory. Now I'm gonna pull a jank here and just make shit up.
But it'll be on film if you ever want to refer back to this.
Could it be that she is his mother?
Anything's possible.
Anything's possible, right?
I mean, I don't, like, can you think back to anything being said that would lead you to believe that?
No.
I can't possible, but I don't know if there's
anything.
any evidence. And again, I'm only speaking from the point of view of what we've seen. She has some prophetic powers. She can see things far away or in the past or in the future. He's a pretty big player. I mean, chances are she's probably she knows who the Starks are. I mean, she's been communicating with Stannis now for a couple of years. Chances are she would have heard about him. The fact that he was at the wildling camp, like, she is not going to let something like that slide. Like, she's going to take note of that.
It was a very unusual look, and I can't just figure what it was. You know, I mean, I don't think it was lust. I mean,
he does like redheads. We've pointed that out before. And
That's
she's
true.
in some ways an upgrade from Ygritte. Ygritte had a beautiful smile, I'll give her that. But I don't think we saw Ygritte naked. Oh no, we did see Ygritte naked.
Yeah, so
actually.
that's my one wild speculation that it was maybe his mother. Because the fact that he's a bastard, I think, is a very important part of the story, obviously.
Because we don't know.
Yeah, but I think his mother will prove to be important. I don't know who that mother is, but I think the mother will prove to be important. So.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's difficult because, I mean, Ned Stark said he was going to talk to Jon the next time they see each other, and he was going to tell him. And then Ned dies before they see each other again. Catelyn, if she ever knew, is dead. And so, like, who would actually know at this point? I mean, there might well be people out there, but I don't know that I know that's currently in the cast. But yeah, that doesn't seem like the sort of thing that they would just never explain.
Right.
Especially with how important of a person he is. And how he's not, you know, your average bastard. He's an incredibly honorable, capable person.
All right, so I'm going to circle all the way back to the wall now, and Jon Snow and Mance Rayder. The scene where he walks into the tent. I love the whole thing. The conversation between Mance and Jon. So, you know, Mance finally reveals what his plans are. You know, we want to kill you guys. We want the wall to hide behind because there's much worse things behind us.
Would you trust him?
Yes, and here's why. If I'm Jon, I have 50 guys against 100,000. So if I didn't trust him, he's gonna kill me anyway.
Maybe.
My only chance is to trust him.
I don't know. They had 5 guys against Mag the Mighty, and they held the gate.
Yeah, but
Maybe.
Yeah, but the 50, I would have said done, deal, come on in.
Now, do you think, if they hadn't been interrupted, what do you think Jon would have done? And remember, bear in mind, Jon does not have the authority to decide for all the Night's Watch. But Jon strikes me as the sort of person that would die to the last man to try to protect the wall.
Yeah, it's foolish, but I think you're right.
Sam too. I mean, Sam, who calls himself a coward, was willing to go and fight. I don't know that they would give it up.
But you know, but in the fight, they had no choice but to fight. They're being attacked. What are you going to do? Just not fight? If you threw your hands up and said, "I surrendered," they're going to kill you. They'll kill you anyway, right? So you had to fight. But here, Mance, I thought, offered an excellent bargain.
Yeah.
And it's foolish to turn that bargain down because it's 50 versus 100,000 anyway, so you're going to lose. So why not say, "Okay, come on in.
Yeah.
I'll make some coffee." And we'll fight the wildlings together. I mean, we'll fight the White Walkers together. Yeah.
I didn't like the wording he used, where he was like, "We'll go through your tunnel, and no one else will die." No one. Yeah, you're gonna vouch for all 100,000 wildlings, and they're not gonna kill a farmer's daughter or something. That just seemed like an odd thing for Mance Rayder, who's a smart guy, to say.
Yeah, and this is my complaint from the prior episode about the lack of backstory on the wildlings. Like, I really would have enjoyed some explanation of their culture, their way of life.
You should read the books.
Yeah, because you know the way they portrayed the Thenn wildlings in particular, they just seem incapable of coexisting with other people and not killing and eating them.
Yeah.
And taunting little boys.
It might well be like a caveman sort of society where they have their women and their properties. They're willing to sort of work together to raid other villages. But other than that, they're pretty much individualistic. I don't know.
Right.
But there are other cultures in the wildlings that are in the books that they didn't have time to really go into. The Thenns are one of them, but there are others.
So Stannis arriving. Couple of pros and a couple of cons.
Okay.
Let's start with the good things. Beautiful cinematography. I thought,
the shots?
oh my God! I was like, wow, that looked amazing. That was unbelievable. The cons are that, again, not enough explanation. I mean, I know from a book reader's perspective, you get it all, but from a show watcher, so we would presume a couple of things. One, that the great speech that Sir Davos, he's a sir, right?
Yeah, he's a knight.
Yes.
The Onion Knight.
His speech to the bankers of the Iron Bank of Braavos worked.
Well, yeah, we saw him with the gold.
Right.
He goes to Saladar Saan. He has the gold.
Yeah, so that worked, and he uses that gold to raise his awesome army.
Yeah.
And I guess they somehow got north of the wall very quickly and
They
efficiently.
have the ships of Saladar Saan.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah.
Yes, so they sailed. They could have shown that. I don't know, like 20
But they
seconds.
want it to be a surprise.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
I mean, they already sort of spoiled it a little bit in the previously on Game of Thrones, where they're like, like Melisandre's like, the real fight's north of the wall.
Yeah.
I was like, don't show that. I want it to be a surprise.
Yeah, and this massive cavalry galloping.
Yeah,
in,
thousands.
It just seems a little unrealistic that that Mance would be caught off guard. Like he would have scouts who would have seen this.
Yeah.
I heard this coming from a distance. That's fine. The scene was awesome, and I really liked the way Mance was like, "We don't kneel." And I also like the way Stannis wasn't being a clown and just slaughtering people. Well, if you're not gonna kneel, they're gonna kill you. Like he's not a clown like Joffrey would have been.
Yeah.
He took into consideration other factors. He talked to Jon and asked, what are your thoughts?
I mean, if Jon had said cut off his head, I wonder if Stannis would have just cut off his head.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because he doesn't like usurpers.
He doesn't. but I love the Onion Knight. I mean, he's really a great character.
Yeah.
And
I wish he was supporting someone else.
yeah, and Stannis, I can't stand Stannis, but he has, between the Onion Knight and Jon, he has good people around him. The Red Woman is she's good and bad, okay? Because she's good in the sense that she's loyal to him, at least for now. But she's bad in the sense that she does witchery and sorcery, and she burns people at the stake, and that's all bad. But she seems like a smart person.
Yeah.
She recognizes the real fight is in the north. So all that is good. So can't wait to see what happens.
I want to say a little bit about the fight between Stannis and them. Like in the books, there is more of it. You see more scenes. Like there's some cool people supporting Mance Rayder that they didn't have time to put into the show, unfortunately. But I think I wish they could have done another scene or two of the fight. The fight should have taken longer. 100,000 people would be camped over miles and miles. And they do show in the wide shot up above, you can see campfires throughout that forest. I wish they'd shown more of it. But in terms of actually like them losing to less than 10,000 cavalry, I think like if you're going to describe for a couple of books that the wildlings are not a disciplined army, that they've got their elderly and their kids and everything, and that they're only sort of held together by Mance, then there have to be negatives to that. And the negative to that is maybe they don't put out scouts in the way that a traditional army does. Like they're not disciplined enough to do it. Or maybe the scouts are so lax in their discipline that they're able to be picked off and killed by Stannis. And like I said, we've been talking about this a little bit. Their camp had no expectation of being attacked. They thought that they were just going to continue to batter the wall and then they'd be fine. So all those people are pretty much just hanging out. And then they get attacked by thousands of cavalry, which we know from history decimate infantry. So it would have taken a lot longer, but I totally buy that they could have won the fight.
I buy it too. I think the show creators could have given us a bit more to flesh that out a little bit, but yeah,
maybe
I hear you.
Show them attacking, come back later in the episode so that we had the perception of time passing.
Right. Because the way they shot it, it looked like they won in 5 minutes.
And they killed 100 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. Yeah. It is. I mean, we have to bear in mind it's a TV show, but yeah, at least they gave us that awesome CGI shot of the two like flanking forces. That was awesome.
And I asked you this off air, but I want to ask you now. Tormund and Ygritte, any relation? Because he seemed to care deeply about her. He asked Jon whether he loved her. They're both redheads, and they were together the whole time. I mean,
as far as I know, there's no relation. I don't think there is in the books, and I don't think they implied it in the show. I think that red hair is supposed to be somewhat more common north of the wall, and I think that the concern was supposed to demonstrate both that he respects Ygritte enough that they could grow close just as fighters, like he never tried to sleep with her as far as I know, and that he still cared about Jon. Even after all that happened and Jon betrayed them, he still cares.
Right.
So I think it was supposed to say a lot about mostly Tormund and a little bit about Jon.
I wish Jon would have given Tormund a little nod. He gave him nothing.
He should have said that he loved her.
Yeah, he gave him nothing because Tormund asked, do you love her? And he just gave him nothing. He just walked around. He walked away.
He cried later on, but Tormund wasn't there to see it.
I know. Like, just give the dude a little nod. I mean, he's your prisoner. You got him. Okay, just give him a little nod and make him feel better.
Yeah.
All right. So the last thing we were going to talk about is Bran and what happened there.
Yeah.
So. I heard the review, and they like dragons and White Walkers
and giants.
But they don't like little children who throw fireballs.
Yeah.
Jan called them lightning bolts. They're not lightning bolts. They're fireballs.
They're fireballs.
They're fireballs. Yeah.
Exploding fireballs. They're grenades, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I'm torn because I love Lord of the Rings and everything. But I'm also glad that in Lord of the Rings, Gandalf isn't like, he's not doing Emperor Palpatine lightning, like that the magic's a bit more abstract. I don't mind the skeletons so much. Lisa had a problem. We watched it again last night. So Lisa had a problem with that. And I sort of understand that they didn't do a good job of foreshadowing how magic could all of a sudden appear in the North. But they have been saying that the North is dangerous and winter is coming. And the reason that's scary is because the normal rules don't apply. So I'm fine with the skeletons. The children throwing the fireballs to me was a bit... It just looked funny, and it looked like unlike anything we've seen. Like, a dragon is basically a flying lizard. Like, I can buy that. But I don't know, the fireballs, to me, I wasn't a huge fan of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was just ambivalent towards both the skeletons and the fireballs.
And skeletons looked very good for a TV show.
Yeah, but your comments, when you guys were reviewing it, your comments that it was like Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of rang true.
Well,
right?
I think I said Clash of the Titans, the original.
Yeah,
like a scorpion was going to come out.
It seemed a little bit silly. At no point did I feel riveted, like, oh my God, the skeletons are awesome, or the skeletons they're going to get Bran. Like, I knew they were going to get Bran.
Well, they did get Jojen.
Well, but Jojen foreshadowed his own death numerous times.
Yeah. The thing that bothered me about it is, unless I'm forgetting something, there has never been a scene like that in Game of Thrones. And what I mean by that is a lot of cheap fantasy, old school fantasy, like bad fantasy novels, will have people on a journey and they get attacked by monsters. They get attacked by a troll and then like shape-shifting werewolves, and they just get attacked by things, and that's what the story's about. I don't think we've ever had a scene where they're just traveling and they get attacked by monsters. Like, that just does not happen.
And there was no context around that. Like, why
were they there?
Why were they there? Why were they attacking?
Why are they right outside the children's thing?
Yeah, and the children, well, if that guy was watching the whole time, why don't the children go out like 2 minutes earlier and just fireball?
3 of them,
so
they apparently knew what was going to happen. And I will say this, what happened there is not the same thing. It's similar to what happened in the books. It's not the same thing. And I think it would have been better if a few ways they had changed it that have been going on for about a season now, they hadn't changed. If you read the books, you'll see what I mean. There's a character that isn't in the show that would have made that a bit smoother, I think.
Yeah, so that scene, they go into the cave, and what was the word that you guys used to describe that place?
I don't even know what he was talking about.
Yeah, like car.
It was a reference to some other movie or something, I think, but I wasn't familiar with it.
I didn't know what you guys were talking about.
It was like the roots of the tree were coming down and everything. It was very wild looking.
Yeah, and then they see that, I guess, the human personification of the three-eyed raven. Is that what it is?
Which apparently, according to HBO's like online episode guide, is an ancient Targaryen, they're saying. Which is not the same as in the books, but it's the same sort of thing anyway.
So the guy says, I've been watching you your whole life, and
with 1,000 eyes and one.
Yeah, and Bran, I thought Bran's excitement at the idea that he can walk again was a little bit odd.
Yeah, after what they had just finished saying.
I'm like,
is that what you're talking about?
You went through all that, your family was murdered, and who cares if you can walk again? I don't know. That seemed like an odd thing to be so excited about.
Yeah.
He seemed like a little boy, like, yes, I can walk again.
He's a little boy.
Yeah, I agree.
10 or 11 or something. But especially because it was like, he died so that you could get what you've wanted.
Yeah.
I can walk? Your friend just died.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if you can walk at this point. So that was odd. But then I love that the dude like, no, you can't. You're never going to walk again.
Yeah,
that was kind of funny.
You're never going to walk again. You're going to fly.
But you will fly.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh. But I wanted to walk.
That's a pretty good bargain. Like, I would give up walking.
You didn't get stabbed in the stomach by a skeleton, so your day is going pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, if I went through all of that, my friend just got murdered by dead skeletons right outside, and the guy's like, you're gonna finally get what you've always wanted. I don't know, like
peace?
World peace.
My family back.
Yeah, destruction of evil. I could now slam dunk a basketball.
It did seem odd. I didn't even really think about it at the time that much, but it was odd. We do have to bear in mind that at least in the books at this point he's 8. So he's a little bit older in the show, obviously, but we do forget that they're young, like that Arya's a little girl and everything.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it seems like in the show, everyone is older than in the books.
They are. Well, there's a few people that are younger. Osha is younger.
Okay.
That's something, I guess.
All right. So explain the little children, or the children, because that was the name of the whole episode.
Yeah,
and
so you
they're
mean the
called-
literal children
Yeah.
that throw fire grenades?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they've been mentioned in the show a couple of times.
They have?
Yeah, they have. In the books, they're mentioned a lot more. And so basically, there's this mythology of before the first men came, the first men came to that continent of Westeros, it was controlled by the children. And they're sort of portrayed in all of their stories, there's myths and stories about them, as sort of like elves, kind of, a little bit. Like they're these ancient things that are commune with nature and everything.
Elves
And then-
like Keebler elves, or elves like Lord of the Rings, tall, strong elves?
More like that, except smaller.
Okay.
Because they look like children, that's why they call them children. She points out that they were there before the first men, but it's more that they look like kids. And then gradually, through their stories, humans like pushing, developing cities, and there's more people, they gradually push the children back into the deeper and deeper parts of the forest. And the only thing that's really left of them are the faces on the weirwood trees. So those white trees you see with the faces, the children carved those or created them or something. And so now we're seeing that they're not just a myth.
That was all explained in prior episodes?
I don't know if they've explained all of that. They might have explained the trees, but they have. I think they've mentioned the children, and at the very least, in the books, they've been mentioned many, many, many times.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, what do you think that means that Bran can now fly?
I mean, in his dreams, he keeps seeing the three-eyed raven, and we know that he can project his consciousness into things. I mean, maybe he needs to experiment with more animals instead of just the wolf and Hodor.
Right.
And stop controlling Hodor. Like, that takes away his free will. I think that they gloss over that. He's basically mind-raping Hodor every time he does that. And Hodor does not have the wherewithal to, like, tell him, don't do that again.
Yeah, so here's how I took that comment. You can fly. I don't think he can, warg into the dragon the way Cenk immediately went to. I mean, he probably can. Why not a dragon if he can do, a wolf or Hodor? He can do that to anyone.
Yeah.
So my thinking is that maybe he can literally fly, okay? Which would be weird, and I don't really know why that's useful other than just
To
kind of
travel.
cool and you can impress chicks with it.
Exactly,
yeah.
Mira will love that.
Yeah, but I think it might mean something totally different that we're not really kind of seeing. That he can fly, that he can, I don't know, that he can control the air, or I don't know what that means exactly.
Or project his consciousness, maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
the guy did say he's been watching them with 1,000 eyes in one. We don't think that those are literal eyes.
Right.
It could be something to do with prophecy or his dreaming and stuff like that.
Yeah, and
We do know that crazy shit is going to happen because this is a place where there are skeletons and elves. So something crazy is going to happen.
yeah. So
And you saw other children sort of skulking around in the shadows and stuff like that.
yeah. So I think that's everything I have, or everything that's
No,
important.
that's pretty much all the children anyway.
Yeah.
Lots of children in this show.
So all right. Let's speculate on next season where they pick up.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So, Game of Thrones, you never know where they're going to pick up, but I want to see the Arya storyline more than anything else. I want to see where she goes and what she does and what she becomes.
I am going to say I think that you're going to be happy with, if I'm right, with the sort of stuff that they do with her, at least early on.
Okay.
It's Game of Thrones, so who the hell knows what's going to happen? But yeah, so this season was sort of dominated by a lot of Tyrion and the trial. That was a big part of
Yeah.
it. And then you had the Wall, you had Arya, you had Daenerys for the most part.
Yeah.
I don't think that the settings and the main characters are going to be the same. I think there are going to be some characters that were big this season that we're going to see very, very little of. And instead, I think we're going to pick up other storylines. Because one thing I've noticed is, in terms of like how far they are from catching up to the books, it's not they're 60% caught up. Certain storylines are much closer to the end than others, and so I think that they're going to shift their focus. And you're going to see a lot more of certain characters. I'm, for one, pretty excited about it because I think there's good stuff in store. I mean, this has been a season of these massive events like the death of Joffrey, the death of Oberyn, the death of Tywin, like these big changes. How are they going to one-up that?
Yeah. So in conclusion, I think everyone's dead from the prior generation. So Tywin,
Yeah.
Ed, Caitlyn, They're all
Ned,
dead.
yeah.
They're all dead. And now it really is a story about the children and what are they going to do? And that's the next chapter of what's
even the
happening.
Hound, like all of their support structures are gone. Like,
Yeah.
even for Jon, like sort of the leadership of the Wall is somewhat decimated.
Yeah, like all the adults are dead, and now the kids are
Now
in charge.
it's the children of the corn. Yeah, so I think that's gonna be exciting. I mean, that's sort of a journey that we've been on since Ned Stark's head was cut off, that they were sort of scattered to the winds, and now that scattering is pretty much complete, and they're sort of starting to take responsibility for themselves. Like Arya is traveling abroad somewhere at least. Daenerys is struggling with the actual weight of being a ruler. Yeah, I wonder which ones will flourish and which ones will perish.
So it was
40
bittersweet.
40 weeks. Yeah, it's bitter.
It was a
it's
great
bittersweet.
episode, but now it's a long wait.
It's a long wait. There are a couple of options. You can read the books. I advise everyone to, if only because if you haven't had things spoiled yet, it's going to happen eventually. Like, read the books. That way it won't be a spoiler. And second of all, if you take a little break and then start watching one episode each week, you'll be caught up by the time, and like do one per week, and then the next season will start.
Yeah, I also recommend rewatching the episodes because I watched this episode twice, and the second time, I think I liked it more the second time because you see the things that you missed. You know? I mean, for example, like when I saw the second time, Jamie pushing that book away and just kind of passionately embracing a new future.
You notice that symbolism and stuff, and you notice the callbacks, the foreshadowing that they do that isn't even obvious at the time. I think definitely rewatch at least the last season.
Yeah. All right.
So unfortunately, that's for this season at least. That's the last upon further review. But who knows? Maybe next season.
Maybe.
Could be fun. Okay, guys. Thanks for
Thanks.
joining us. We'll see you in 40 weeks.